California hospital, death began to follow an unusual schedule. It arrived quietly late at night during the graveyard shift. Patients who had stabilized during the day declined without warning in the early hours before dawn. Machines sounded alarms. Staff rushed in. Families received calls they never expected. Doctors and nurses worked inside an intensive care unit built to save lives. Most patients admitted they stood at a critical edge, yet survival followed patterns doctors understood. Decline rarely arrived without warning. Recovery followed measurable signs. What started to disturb staff was not death itself, but timing, repetition, and similarity. One of the first families to experience this shock was the Johnson family. Tricia Johnson had spent days inside the ICU. Her condition had improved. Doctors believed she had moved past the most dangerous phase. Her husband, Larry, stayed at her bedside for hours, watching monitors settle into steady rhythms. Late one night, Larry stepped out to get coffee. Moments after he left the room, Tricia's vital signs collapsed. Her heart stopped. The nurses' station received an emergency alert. A trauma team rushed in. CPR began. Medications followed. Nothing worked. By the time Larry returned, the room had filled with doctors. They pronounced Tricia dead. No explanation satisfied the family. No warning signs had appeared. Staff recorded the event as another tragic ICU loss. The hospital moved forward. Then it happened again. John Schwartz entered the ICU after a routine hip replacement. His recovery appeared straightforward. Doctors planned discharge within days. His family felt relief. He had no serious underlying conditions. Because of the surgery, nurses restrained him to prevent injury during sleep. Later that night, staff found Schwartz on the floor. Somehow, he had escaped the restraints. He lay unresponsive. A code blue echoed through the unit. CPR started. Oxygen flowed. Medication followed. Schwartz died within minutes. Medical staff struggled to explain how a stable patient recovering from surgery had deteriorated so rapidly. Nurses reviewed charts. Doctors reviewed vitals. No cause fit cleanly. For Schwartz's granddaughter, Mary Nickel, the loss made no sense. He had been healthy. He had been talking. He had been planning to go home. The hospital again documented the death as unexplained but natural. As weeks passed, ICU staff began to notice repetition. Patients improved. Plans formed for discharge. Then, often between 2 and 5 in the morning, respiratory failure arrived first. Hearts continued beating for minutes after breathing stopped. Alarms sounded. Teams responded. Patients died. Respiratory therapist Bob Baker worked those night shifts. Baker had years of experience in critical care. He had seen death. He had comforted families. He understood instability. What troubled him was not frequency alone, but structure. In many cases, breathing failed before the heart. Blood oxygen levels recorded before death sometimes appeared normal. In standard medical decline, oxygen deprivation leads heart failure. Here, the sequence appeared reversed. Another patient, Sarah Asari, arrived with severe lung disease. Over time, treatment worked. She moved off full ventilation. Doctors expected discharge. At 4:10 a.m., her breathing rate spiked. For minutes later, she stopped breathing. Her heart followed. A do not resuscitate order prevented intervention. Staff could only observe. Asari died. Baker reviewed her chart. Oxygen levels appeared inconsistent with respiratory collapse. No one could explain the sequence. He grew uneasy. Hospital culture discouraged alarm. ICUs see death. Staff pushed forward. Coincidence remained the official explanation. Then Baker found something physical. In a storage room, he noticed a used syringe with a drug vial taped to it. Procedure required strict control of narcotics. Nothing like this belonged in storage. When Baker checked with lab staff, no department claimed ownership. That discovery changed his concern into suspicion. He spoke with colleagues. Some dismissed it. Others joked about bad luck shifts. A name started circulating quietly among staff, never officially, never on paper. Efine Salivar. Salivar worked graveyard shifts as a respiratory therapist. Some staff joked patients died when he worked. Others brushed it off. Baker did not. Another case intensified concern. Jean Coyle suffered chronic breathing issues and visited the hospital frequently. One night, her blood pressure dropped to 0. She entered respiratory arrest. Staff revived her. Within 40 minutes, she stabilized fully. Later testing showed normal oxygen levels during the event. Baker noticed Salivar had been present. Rumors spread without shape. No accusations reached management. Hospitals rely on trust. Accusing staff of harm threatened careers, reputations, and institutions. Still, deaths continued. Myrtle Brower entered ICU with pneumonia. Her condition improved. Then one night, her breathing stopped while her heart continued beating. She suffocated slowly. Families trusted the hospital. They believed professionals protected life. As deaths mounted, grief collided with confusion. Hospital administrators heard whispers but saw no statistical proof. Death counts showed no clear spike. Patterns hid inside complexity. Then, an anonymous phone call reached administration. A man claimed a staff member had admitted a respiratory therapist was helping patients die. He refused to identify his source. He named Salivar. Administrators contacted police. Glendale detectives began quietly. Early investigation stalled. The caller had a criminal history. A co-worker linked to both the caller and Salivar denied wrongdoing. Hospital records showed no obvious death spike tied to Salivar's schedule. The case teetered toward dismissal. Yet Baker stepped forward with more detail. He described finding drugs in Salivar's locker while playing a prank. Inside, he claimed, were narcotics and vials of succinylcholine, a paralytic used for intubation. Unauthorized possession raised alarm. Police questioned Baker's motives. Baker and Salivar disliked each other. Bias seemed possible. At that stage, police faced a dead end. Then they decided to interview Salivar. What followed changed everything. When police decided to speak directly with Effine Salivar, they did not expect resistance. At that point, investigators believed the rumors pointed toward workplace hostility, not homicide. Their goal was simple. Ask questions, clear a name, close a file. Salivar agreed to come to the station. He arrived calm, quiet, polite. Nothing about his appearance suggested panic. To detectives, he looked like an ordinary hospital employee caught inside ugly gossip. Detective Will Curry explained the reason for the meeting. Rumors, anonymous calls, concerns from coworkers. He offered Salivar a chance to clear everything through a polygraph test. The reaction surprised them. Salivar refused. The refusal shifted the tone inside the room, not because refusal proved guilt, but because of how he reacted. His body stiffened. His answer slowed. He appeared fearful. The polygraph examiner, Irvin Youngblood, took over the conversation. Curry stepped into an adjoining room to monitor. Youngblood did not accuse. He asked open questions. He watched. When he asked directly if Salivar had killed anyone, the response was not denial. Salivar hesitated. Then he spoke. He said he had assisted patients. The room changed. Youngblood asked him to explain what assistance meant. Salivar described an early case from years before. A patient with terminal cancer remained on a ventilator longer than expected. Doctors planned removal, but had not acted yet. Salivar said he believed the patient should not suffer longer. He said he intervened. He described standing by while the patient suffocated. 15 minutes passed before death. Youngblood remained calm. He continued. Salivar said this had happened more than once. He struggled to estimate how many. At first, he said fewer than 50. Then he revised the number upward. Then he mentioned other hospitals. The numbers climbed again. Youngblood listened as Salivar spoke about dozens, then possibly hundreds. At that moment, Youngblood realized the interview had crossed a legal line. Confession required rights advisement, but stopping risked losing cooperation. He stepped out to find Curry. Curry immediately advised Salivar of his rights. Salivar waived them. He continued talking. Detectives contacted supervisors. Senior officers returned to the station in the middle of the night. Phones rang across departments. The magnitude stunned everyone. if Salivar spoke truthfully. The case eclipsed every known medical murder investigation. Yet disbelief hung heavy. Confession alone meant nothing without proof. Detectives arrested Salivar. Within hours, doubts surfaced. The district attorney reviewed the case and delivered sobering news. Without physical evidence, charges could not hold. Confessions without victims, without proof, collapsed in court. After 48 hours, police released Salivar. The public did not know. Inside the department, fear spread. If the confession stood true, a mass killer walked free. If false, police risked destroying an innocent man. Media soon learned fragments. Headlines exploded. Hospital phones rang nonstop. Families demanded answers. Salivar vanished from public view. Detectives worked quietly from a rented house near the hospital to avoid leaks. They monitored Salivar when possible. At times, they lost him. Meanwhile, police turned backward. They examined years of hospital records, thousands of pages, complex charts, medical language few detectives understood. They bought medical dictionaries. They studied respiratory failure patterns. They consulted physicians willing to help. Doctors explained what normal death looked like. Then they explained what paralysis looked like. A paralyzing drug stops breathing first. The heart continues briefly. Panic follows. Heart rate spikes. Then collapse. That pattern matched many ICU deaths. Detectives searched charts for sudden respiratory arrest without prior oxygen decline. They found several. Names appeared again. Sarah Asari, Linda Sharovsky, Myrtle Brower, Eleanor Schlagel. Families received calls from police. Questions reopened old wounds. Some welcomed answers. Others feared them. Police faced a grim choice. The only way forward required disturbing the dead. They would need to exhume bodies. They contacted forensic laboratories across the country. Most declined. Paralytic drugs break down quickly. Detection after burial seemed impossible. One lab said yes. Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. A forensic chemist named Brian Andre agreed to try. He warned success was uncertain. No test existed for this purpose. He would need to build one. Time stretched into months. Media pressure mounted. Salivar reappeared publicly and recanted everything. He claimed depression. He said he wanted execution. He said the confession meant nothing. Investigators watched interviews in silence. Now they faced a nightmare. If evidence failed, Salivar would walk forever free. Families would never know truth. Police pressed on. They narrowed victims to recent years. Bodies needed preservation. They selected 20 candidates. Each exhumation required family consent. Many agreed. The first grave opened, and the investigation crossed a line from suspicion into proof hunting. The first grave opened before sunrise. Police officers stood back as cemetery workers lifted concrete slabs and exposed the sealed burial vault. No press, no cameras, only officials, forensic staff, and silence. This moment marked a point of no return. Once the ground opened, doubt lost its place. Inside the vault sat a casket untouched for years. Soil samples were taken first. Investigators documented every step. Defense attorneys would challenge everything later. Chain of custody mattered more than speed. The body belonged to Myrtle Brower. She had entered the hospital with pneumonia. She had improved. Then breathing stopped while her heart continued. The sequence troubled doctors even at the time. Now her remains held answers police needed. The casket traveled under escort to the coroner's office. Pathologists worked slowly. Tissue preservation surprised them. Burial conditions had helped. That fact gave investigators hope. Samples from lungs, liver, kidneys, heart, and brain went into sealed containers. Each jar labeled, each step logged. Detectives drove the samples north themselves. 300 miles on the highway felt endless. Inside the vehicle sat the entire case. At Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, Brian Andre began work. He did not celebrate. He worried. Pavulon detection inside buried tissue had never been proven. The drug breaks down quickly. Its chemical remnants resemble natural substances found in the body. Andre worked long hours. Failures followed failures. Weeks passed. Detectives waited. During that time, public pressure intensified. Families called police daily. Hospital staff faced suspicion. Careers froze. Reputations collapsed. Salivar appeared on television again. He denied everything. He claimed mental illness. He said police twisted his words. The case hovered near collapse. Then Andre saw something. Inside one tissue sample, a faint signal appeared. The molecular weight matched pabulon. He double-checked. The signal held. Detectives received the call. Celebration lasted minutes. Records showed the patient had received pabulon during legitimate treatment days earlier. Defense attorneys would argue residue remained. Hope faded again. Andre continued testing. More samples arrived. Then another signal appeared. This time the patient had never received pabulon medically. Then another. The results grew stronger. Sarah Assari, Linda Shurovsky, Eleanor Schlegel, Myrtle Brower. In each case, pabulon appeared in multiple organs. Lungs, kidneys, liver, brain. Levels exceeded therapeutic doses. The pattern spoke clearly. This was not treatment. This was poisoning. Detectives gathered around lab reports. No one spoke for several seconds. After years of doubt, proof stood on paper. Police moved fast. They reviewed shift schedules. Salivar worked every death window. Records placed him inside patient rooms minutes before collapse. Defense explanations shrank. The district attorney approved charges. Police planned the arrest carefully. Salivar knew scrutiny. Flight risk remained high. Surveillance tracked him for weeks. One morning, officers followed his car onto a quiet road. They stopped him, guns drawn. Command shouted. Salivar complied. Handcuffs closed. The search for truth ended on asphalt. Inside interrogation, detectives confronted him with evidence. No rumors, no charts, no theory. Science spoke. Salivar lowered his voice. He admitted again. This time his explanation changed. He blamed workload. He blamed stress. He said patients overwhelmed him. He described thinning numbers. Psychologists disagreed. Control fit better than exhaustion. Power explained more than fatigue. Families received calls. Some cried. Some felt relief. Some felt anger. All felt loss renewed. The case moved toward court, faced with overwhelming evidence. By the time Efine Salivar stood before a judge, the case no longer depended on rumor, suspicion, or confession. The proof came from the ground itself. 6 graves told the same story. Investigators now faced a final task. They needed to show a jury how quiet hospital deaths turned into criminal acts. This required translating science into plain truth. Every detail mattered. Prosecutors assembled the timeline. Patients arrived at the hospital with serious illnesses, yet showed improvement. Vital signs stabilized. Discharge plans appeared in charts. Family members visited and left believing recovery had begun. Then the pattern repeated. Early morning hours. Respiratory collapse without warning. Hearts beating after breathing stopped. Panic signals recorded on monitors. Staff responding too late to save them. The drug pabulon explained every piece. Pabulon paralyzes muscles used for breathing. Victims remain conscious. They feel suffocation. The heart continues until oxygen loss becomes fatal. Medical records confirmed the victims did not receive pabulon as treatment. Lab analysis confirmed large concentrations across organs. Burial time ruled out contamination. The science aligned. Police reconstructed Salivar's movements. Badge records, shift schedules, chart access logs, witness statements. He appeared at each critical moment. The defense prepared attacks on the lab process. Prosecutors countered with consistency. Same coroner, same pathologist, same evidence chain, same laboratory, same methods. Nothing stood alone. Everything connected. Families filled the courtroom. Some brought photos. Others stared forward without expression. Many had waited years for clarity. Some wished they had never learned the truth. One son spoke quietly outside court. He said he had always sensed something wrong. Recovery plans followed by sudden death never made sense. Now, the doubt ended. Salivar did not testify. When offered the chance, he chose a guilty plea. He accepted responsibility for 6 murders and 1 attempted murder. The plea removed the death penalty from the table. The judge imposed 6 consecutive life sentences. Additional years followed. The courtroom remained silent. No celebration followed. No relief erased loss. For investigators, the case closed but never ended. Many described it as the most difficult investigation of their careers. Not because of danger, but because of betrayal. Hospitals operate on trust. Patients surrender control. Families leave loved ones in the care of strangers. That trust formed the weapon. After sentencing, hospital administrators reviewed failures. Drug storage tightened. Access logs expanded. Oversight increased. Training changed. None of it brought back lives. Experts debated the final number of victims. Investigators believed the 6 proven cases represented only the final year. Charts from earlier years suggested dozens more suspicious deaths. Proof faded with time. The true number may never surface. Salivar entered prison quietly. He showed little emotion. Psychologists noted absence of remorse. He believed his actions served a purpose. That belief disturbed investigators more than anger would have. Families returned home carrying new grief. Some sought civil justice. Others sought silence. Some spoke publicly to warn others. The hospital continued operations. Patients arrived. Staff worked shifts. Alarms sounded. Lives were saved. Yet the memory stayed. A reminder carved into procedure manuals and institutional memory. Death arrived quietly during the graveyard shift. It wore a uniform. It held a syringe. And it hid in plain sight.